Donald Trump hates a federal judge. He hates all federal judges. One in particular, Jeb Boasberg, the Chief Judge of the D.C. District Court, who's got him in a number of cases. He had him when he was a criminal defendant as well. He's a moderate, middle-of-the-road Democrat who's been admired by both sides of the aisle, but not to Donald Trump, who calls him corrupt and insane and a lefty and all of those things, even though he was appointed to the bench originally by George W. Bush. And he's got his hands filled in full with the Trump administration, the Department of Justice. They're all taking turns trying to make Jeb Boasberg a punching bag. They say he should be impeached. They say he's criminal. They say a lot of things outside the courtroom they would never say inside the courtroom. And the judge now is trying to determine whether the Trump administration is trying to get out from under a contempt sanction by taking a position that there is state secrets involved and the state secret privilege should be used concerning the middle of the night deportation without due process of people to the dark, dank jails of El Salvador, where they're likely to die, 50% chance of dying when they arrive there. We cover it all on a show here on Legal AF we call Unprecedented with Dina, Sayegh and me, Michael Popok. Take a listen. Let's switch gears and talk about all things Judge Boasberg, who's the Chief Judge of the D.C. District Court. Very well respected. You wouldn't know it from how the Trump administration outside the courtroom and even inside the courtroom is bashing Jeb Boasberg. You know, it's the same. It's an interbranch power grab. It's an unjust assault on our Constitution. It's a single federal judge. It's all the old tropes that are being trotted out. He's doing his job. He took a look at the first attempted exercise of a war power during peacetime to deport people without due process to a supermax prison in El Salvador where they paid to play. We're giving them $6 million to take these people and now, off our hands without due process. And it turns out that not everybody happens to be a part of the Tren de Agua, whatever it is, criminal narco-terrorist gang. Yeah. There's some women in there. There's some 14-year-olds. There's a couple of hairdressers. There's some people that cheer on Real Madrid, the football team. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that on the 230 that shouldn't be there, and certainly without due process. And Boasberg had said during his hearing to the lawyer Drew Ensign for the government, you understand, I wasn't ordering, my order does not mean you have to release these bad people, my words, into the general population, right? You don't have to open the prison. You don't have to like open Arkham prisons and let out all the crazies in Batman, right? You understand that. You can still hold them, just give them due process and go through a proper process with a judge on the other side before you deport them. You understood that, right? Yes. You understood my order as of 6:37 last Saturday was to turn the planes around that hadn't yet landed, right? Right. You understood that? Yeah, I understood that. Yes, right. Okay. So we knew from the hearing the judge was not going to lift his temporary restraining order, finding that there has been an extraordinary usurpation by the president of powers that he's not entitled to. Boasberg said, paraphrasing, it is a he didn't say unprecedented. He said it is I'll paraphrase it my way. It's a scary moment where a president can just point to you and say, you're an enemy combatant of the United States. I'm using my war powers, put a hood on him and shackles and get him out of here. I mean, that is a scary place to reside. And thoughtful people don't think that's correct. And so the judge put a stop to it. The Trump administration took an appeal to the 3 judges of the D.C. Circuit Court, many of which we know well from other cases involving Donald Trump, which we'll talk about in a minute. But before we get to the hearing and why we think it's on a fast track to the United States Supreme Court, Roberts, why don't you take Chief Justice Roberts 5-6 days ago, stepped out of character and did something extraordinary I've never seen in my lifetime. I did my research. It's never been done before. What did he do and how do you think it impacts Donald Trump's conduct?
Well, those of us paying attention to the Supreme Court and everybody here has been following us along on Unprecedented is going to become an expert. It was huge because of the timing of it. Is in particular, he didn't speak at some conference or end of the year report in some vague way, and you didn't quite know who he was talking about, but you could kind of puzzle it together. Trump came out, he was upset about the ruling regarding the deportations, and he said his usual, we need to impeach this district judge. And Roberts, within hours, came back and said, this is not how our democracy works. If you don't like a ruling, you appeal it. You don't call for impeachment. It was the most clear rebuke of what Trump is saying that I have ever seen. And for it to come from somebody like Roberts, who doesn't want to be political, doesn't want to rock the boat. He sees himself as such an institutionalist, that he wants to gently guide the hand, right? Like that kind of person. This is like huge for him to have done that. And for those of us who are counting on the judiciary to rein in Trump, and specifically the Supreme Court to rein in Trump, I said, Trump has finally alarmed Chief Justice Roberts. And that is a good thing.
I like to think he's the hand that's rocking the cradle. Roberts, he likes to act like he's an institutionalist, but look at all the major decisions he did to help Donald Trump, from the Colorado insurrection ballot issue all the way through the immunity decision. He seems to be on the wrong end, except for Dobbs on a woman's right to choose, which was he joined but didn't write. He's written every other major decision that matters, and he's always on the hump or wrong side. Here it's funny, a week or so before on a hot take, I said, if you don't like a court decision, you don't abuse the federal judge, you appeal. You don't abuse, you appeal. And he said almost the same thing in his own way. He said 200 years of precedent. You don't impeach, you appeal. You don't call for the impeachment.
We have a mechanism for you not agreeing with a judge.
But it didn't stop them. They can, the next day, the press secretary called out Jeb Boasberg by name, doxed him during a press conference. Pam Bondi, Attorney General, attacked him as well. Everybody who's not in front of his, it's gotten so bad that Boasberg actually took a little bit of a piss out of Drew Ensign, the lawyer for the Department of Justice, and he said, I'm seeing language used in your filings that surprises me, and I've never seen before used by the government. And then he said, I've told my law clerks, you only have one thing in your life. You have your reputation and your ethics. And that is being challenged here. You need to report that back to your colleagues. And Drew Ensign said, yes, sir. Yeah. See, I don't feel sorry for him because this is a job he's chosen. But Drew Ensign is on the receiving end of the judge because everybody else is attacking him outside the courtroom extrajudicially to try to influence him. And that's why Roberts, I don't think Roberts had a choice. Roberts is like, I'm going to let the president continue to bash the feds. Let's see what Roberts does now. Probably nothing. Now that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has said, we're looking into, I don't know if you saw the clip. In fact, we'll play the clip now, and then I'll let you and I respond to it. We'll roll the clip.
So there's a natural tension between the branches of the government, and we're working through that. The Judiciary Committee is looking at alternatives. One of the bills that I really like that's already been through committee was authored by Representative Darrell Issa, and that would limit the scope of federal injunctions, the ability of one individual judge to abuse the system in this way. And it would be, in my view, a dramatic improvement on that. So we'll be moving, I think, that piece of legislation and some others to address it because we have an Article I authority under the Constitution to do that. We do have authority over the federal courts, as you know. We can eliminate an entire district court. We have power funding over the courts and all these other things. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. So stay tuned for that.
All right. So there is a Speaker of the House, obviously buttons being pushed by Donald Trump, who says it's unprecedented, it's unconstitutional. We have oversight over federal judges. We can eliminate district judges and district courts if we don't like them. That's not exactly how checks and balances works, by the way. And then I thought it was remarkable that, and I've talked about this before, that Johnson just said in that clip that we want to get rid of the ability of one federal judge to enter into nationwide injunctions. He had no problem with it when Kaczmarek in Texas actually said women can't use medicated abortion because I say so nationwide. And no problem when all these crazy Texas and Louisiana judges came out against the Biden administration and stopped student loan programs and women's right to choose programs and COVID policy. No problem. Silence, crickets. But now it's their guy. And it's like, it's it's a power grab by one federal judge. We'll have to see what Roberts, who spent who spent a fair amount of his time in his State of the Judiciary address on January 1, talking about the attack on the judiciary. And now it's all come to fruition, but on the Republican MAGA side.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've talked about this. Roberts and the other Heritage Foundation are big believers in the executive unitary theory, which is a larger power for the president than we are accustomed to. But Roberts is not going to be willing to go as far in that theory with somebody like Trump, who's so out of control. And that helps us. You know, every time Trump calls for the impeachment of a judge, it's going to make Roberts more reluctant to give Trump power. So, because that is the tension. The tension is their philosophy versus Trump, who's the worst person to give the power to. So every time Trump says that, I'm like, good. You scare the Supreme Court. They're the only ones that can kind of stop him, or willing to at this point. Certainly Congress isn't. So I like it when he scares Roberts. And I thought Chief Justice Roberts saying that showed how alarmed he was.
Well, the Trump position is scaring another judge. We have we got a rainstorm out here. Judge Patricia Millett of the D.C. Circuit Court, 3-judge panel, who knows Donald Trump well, served on the panel that issued the ruling that he did not enjoy immunity, reversed by the United States Supreme Court, but is actually a well-considered judge. She led this 3-judge panel about whether Judge Boasberg's decision to find that Donald Trump had violated the Alien Enemies Act. There's no declaration of war, last I looked, against Venezuela and his attempt to label people enemy combatants. And then she said the thing that's getting all the headlines in the hearing yesterday. She said to Drew Ensign, the same guy I've been talking about at length there, she said, Nazis. Whenever you start with Nazis, you know it's where we're going. Nazis were treated better under the Alien Enemies Act in America than these particular Venezuelans. Oh, we object to that characterization, Your Honor. She went off. She spent most of her time leading a very hot bench, and it was hot because of her, understandably, where she said, and she pointed to evidence that's in the record about the pilots knowing about the order of Judge Boasberg refusing to turn the planes around after being so ordered, and the Drew Ensign sort of painted himself into a corner for the Department of Justice because he argued, and I've heard this before. I've heard Carolyn Levitt, the world's youngest press secretary, say the same thing, which is, you know, a single judge. It would be like if a single judge, Your Honor, ordered an aircraft carrier group in the South Pacific to redeploy to, she said, stop. Okay. This is not the interfering with war plans. And okay, this is the planes were had been wheels up in violation of an order, as alleged, as I understand it. That's different. That's a judge using the power of his review power combined with an injunction to return to the status quo. That's not a judge interfering with the operation of the commander-in-chief and Pentagon deciding where to place an aircraft carrier, right? So she was fired up in the attack. The other 2 judges, one being Henderson, who was appointed by Bush W, and Walker, he looks like the world's youngest federal judge. We'll put a photo up of him in a minute. He looks like a frat brother. Looks like Kavanaugh younger. And his big thing is he's trying to hold up his end of the bargain is, why was this filed in D.C.? Why wasn't it filed in Texas where they were processed? Which is sort of implying that if you forum shop and you put the case, this is what the Trump administration is doing. Right. They're shipping these people to Louisiana and Texas to deny jurisdiction to judges they don't like. This is forum shopping, and Walker sort of stepped into it. What did you think about the reporting so far on the oral argument? They haven't issued their order yet at the time of this recording. And what do you think? You tell me where you think they're going to go, and then we'll talk about the Supreme Court to end it.
I mean, I think they're going to say that was illegal and not lawful, let's say, under the Aliens Enemy Act. I mean, first of all, the only reason why Trump is even, or their thing is saying that there is at war, this act is his executive order, basically saying that this is an invasion, right? I mean, the idea is those people that were on that plane and deported without any due process. And when she was talking about the Nazis, she wasn't talking hyperbole. She was literally talking about when we had Nazis and they had hearings. The idea that people were deported without any due process is so scary. Of course, it should be something that a judge gets involved in. I mean, they could, it could be the vice president from another political party, right? It could be any kind of citizen. I mean, the idea that there's no legal review of an action like that. And frankly, I think there's legal review. Why shouldn't a judge be able to step in? If there was an aircraft carrier off the coast of California ready to launch, why shouldn't a judge be able to step in? I mean, we have laws for a reason. We have checks and balances for a reason. What they did was so scary. And I think that Trump is going to lose at the circuit court because of it, because I don't think they have any kind of legal standing, to stand on.
Yeah. The mainstream media reported it as, there's a split. Hard to tell. I'm not sure about that. let's just put it this way. Millett is going to affirm Boasberg's injunction, and she's not going to block it while the appeal goes on, which is the only issue up on this. It's not on the substance, but it is on the substance for a judge. She's not going to block it. She's going to let Trump have his appeal through the DC. And if he doesn't, she's going to stop him from using the Alien Enemies Act. In the meantime, he's got other ways, as Boasberg laid out, he's got other ways to deport. Go through immigration court.
This was like, he did this because he liked, he's all about a reality show. He liked the shock and awe of it. He liked the drama of it, the whole images of them with their shaved heads. These poor people were used as props in his reality show.
That's right. This is Stephen Miller special, 100%. Christine Noem special.
100%. And, we are still a country of laws, even if they don't want us to be.
The easiest way for me to put this is, does anybody want to live in the world that Donald Trump has created? Seriously, as an American.
No, so true.
As an American, do you want to? I'm against criminals. I'm for law and order, but I'm also for due process and the rights of an accused, even if they are accused of being members of a narco-terrorist organization. As I said early on, if you got the proof, bring it. It's an adversarial proceeding. They got a lawyer, you got a lawyer, there's a judge. And it's up or down, live or die. Put them on, and they stay in Guantanamo or in the prison in the meantime. But to offload them to save money, so that we're in trouble when the dictator-like president of El Salvador, Bukele, is egging Trump on in social media posts with, "Come on, man, go after judges. I did it. If you want your agenda to pass," I'm like, now he's taking instruction from the El Salvador is telling us it's the El Salvadorianification of America. I thought we were. I went to bed last night. I thought we were America. Welcome back. The Supreme Court. There's courses taught on it at law school, just about the United States Supreme Court. And can you think of a more interesting or important intersection for law and politics, the United States Supreme Court? We couldn't think of any, but there really wasn't a show out there that was devoted to it the way that we do it as constitutional scholars, people who practice in the federal courts that are at issue here. Then Dina and Sayegh, and I got together and said, let's do a show. We call it Unprecedented for a reason. You know why. And it sits at the intersection of law, politics, and the United States Supreme Court. We do it every week, only here on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. So if you like it, like that kind of content, you like Dina, Dahl, and me separately or together, hit the free subscribe button, and make sure you help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. So until my next hot take, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.